Welcome to the Milk Bottle e-commerce show, brought to you by Milk Bottle Labs, Ireland's top-rated and officially accredited Shopify and Klaviyo e-commerce experts. Founder Keith Matthews interviews e-commerce professionals, app developers and entrepreneurs to share as much digital knowledge and e-commerce tips and tricks as possible. This podcast is kindly supported by our go-to e-commerce tools, Rewind.io, the leading backup solution for Shopify, BigCommerce, Trello and more. Let's just say it's the cheapest insurance policy you'll ever get for your Shopify store and all your valuable data. Simply go to rewind.io/milkbottle to get your first month for free. Our go-to Shopify application to supercharge in-store pickup and local delivery on your Shopify store is Zapiet. It's fully customizable and scalable from one location to thousands. Backed by outstanding customer support, it's no wonder Zapiet is trusted by over 10,000 plus stores across 150 countries. Now over to your host, Keith Matthews.
Hey folks, welcome back. Over the last couple of years, I have managed to interview some really successful female entrepreneurs who are mothers, wives and partners, but most of all, really dedicated business people. So in this episode, we're going to rerun and listen to some excerpts of some of the most popular episodes over the last 2 years, which happen to involve female entrepreneurs. First up is Louise Stokes of Jewellery. We started working with Louise over 5 years ago. Louise is a talented jewellery designer, businesswoman and trendsetter who has created a successful brand in a highly competitive world of fashion. In this episode, we'll delve into her story from her beginnings in the industry to moving to New York on an internship to a rise to the top of the jewellery scene in Ireland and beyond. We'll also explore the challenges Louise has faced along the way and how she has overcome them, as well as the vision and the values that drive her to continue creating beautiful and unique pieces that capture the spirits of her customers. So here goes.
Yeah, I always call that my sliding doors moment. So I was in Trinity doing sociology and philosophy. So obviously I didn't have like a massive career path waiting for me after that. I didn't know. I worked in Brown Thomas all through college, worked for Louise Kennedy. So luxury retail was my part-time job. So that it had a huge influence on me. So when I moved to New York, I actually worked in French Connection and then I was interviewing for an internship. I had my heart set on it being fashion, but you have to eat in New York. So I got a jewellery internship and that's what I mean is the sliding doors, because I didn't know a ruby from an emerald, but being, it's total gift of the gab. It's soul destroying because anyone I really admire, there's lots of bloggers and influencers have moved to New York, but it's so hard. People don't see that side, you're not known at all. You don't have the connections. You have to bang down doors. So the internship was, I call it Game of Thrones. It was a huge, massive manufacturing company. They took in 12 interns and you got assigned to a sales team. And it was just, it was basically everything you need to learn about the jewellery industry in a day-to-day job. Really, really hard, like crazy, like 90-hour weeks. But I then left them after a year and a half. So we had stone sorters, you had salespeople, merchandisers, the buyers were coming in. Now I was probably only giving them bagels for breakfast, but...
So you got to see... like the what we see now with your successful brand is the front end of it, okay? Which is the sexy stuff.
Yeah.
But you actually got to see right down to the roots exactly how a jewellery business buys, sells, creates, curates and distributes. Would that be correct?
Oh yeah, like from the, where the stone sorters are there and they're washing out castings in the murky water, all that stuff that people don't see. And it literally was hilarious. It was like below basement, then it was basement, then there was shipping, then there was invoicing, then there was sales. So to have an exposure. Now you're an intern, you're invisible. Okay. So no one even knows who you are or what your name is, but the exposure to that, was the foundation for me. And for me, what I absolutely loved was this idea that, you could create something in your mind, it goes to CAD and then you see it through the process. And that was, that sort of sparked my whole love of design and jewellery.
It was online selling of jewellery. Was that prevalent at the time or was that early doors?
Super early doors. No.
Okay.
At that time, the basis for most businesses in fashion and jewellery was a multi-retail sales channel. So I worked on the JCPenney account. So they had 1,500 retail outlets at the time. We also sold to Walmart. But then we would, the kind of base level. Then there was higher end retailers as well, like the Bloomingdale's. So everything was about getting a piece of jewellery into a company with multiple doors. Online didn't even come into it.
Okay. At what point did you end up getting in contact with Alexi Batara then?
That was an intern. So that basically, Alexis Batara was sold in Brown Thomas, and I knew Fumi who was selling it, and she was like, and I loved the brand. So it was amazing. I just sent off a letter. I had to send off a letter. I had to write a letter, had to put my CV in, and
so you actually had to buy a stamp.
Yeah, actually had to post it, and I went intern for him during show season. So I did that before I got my other internship, and that really opened my eyes, because what I had then was one very short internship showing me the fashion jewellery side. I had never seen a piece of jewellery made of lucite. That, selling for $500. All of the industry loved him. He was the booth you couldn't get in. He was busting. So I had that, and then I had my fine jewellery in internship training. So then when it came time to build my brand, I was able to go back to both those people, and your connections, are key.
Okay. And then at what point did you realize then that you were going to focus on jewellery rather than fashion then?
I always knew I wanted to have my own business, the whole way up through college and everything, but I never knew exactly what. Was it going to be fashion design? What was it going to be? And I suppose it was the exposure living in New York, working for Alexis as an intern, shopping in the markets, buying my friends gifts, and they would be like, wow, those earrings are amazing. And I was like, oh, they were $60. I just sold them. And I thought, hang on, there's a market here. There was no room for another jeweler that was doing the same as everybody else. And also it's a very historical, very family orientated business. Generally people's fathers and grandfathers, I don't have a family history in that. So I knew if I was to do it, I was going to aim at a female customer. I wanted to merge my love of fashion with the jewellery. So the edit that I would stock would be from a fashion perspective, what people are wearing right now. So that's the focus that we built.
Next up is Oonagh O'Hagan. Oonagh is the owner of Meaghers Pharmacy Group. Oonagh has been a client of ours for many years, and Meaghers is one of the most popular independent pharmacy chains on the island of Ireland. They offer a wide range of products and services to its customers and have adapted and grown during the pandemic and after. Oonagh has been instrumental in building the brand and establishing Meaghers as a go-to destination for health, beauty and well-being, and cites much of her success to her upbringing in County Tyrone.
I come from the hills of Tyrone, where the air is thin, and we're lighthearted up there. But basically, I came to Dublin to study in Trinity to do pharmacy. I was actually planning to come and do medicine, but at the very last minute, I changed to pharmacy because I realised I was scared of needles. So I opted out at the very end.
So just on that, was there a reason why you came to Dublin?
Yeah, when I was growing up, I suppose I had two aunts in Dublin, and I used to look after one of my aunt's children, so my cousins, and they ran a pub actually on North King Street, and they would always be out and about working, and I used to come down in the summer and help look after the kids, and I would bring them one day to the zoo, the next day to, wherever. And one of my favourite haunts was taking them into Trinity and walking around the grounds of Trinity. And that's what I fell in love with Trinity. I used to walk through Front Square with them all and just imagine what it would be like to go and study there. So I knew I was coming to Dublin, and I knew I was coming to Trinity no matter what. And so I didn't actually apply anywhere else, would you believe? But I did put medicine up at the top of the list, and then pharmacy. And when I was about 7 or 8, a GP broke a needle, and I got an injection, and he broke a needle in my arm. He hit the bone, and it really blew up and really got infected. And I just never got over the fear of needles ever since. And
so that influenced your entire career decision?
Yeah, it did actually. Yeah. So despite the fact that I got the points for medicine, and I always, my family always encouraged me to be brilliant. A first grandchild and eldest in our family, whatever. So they were all encouraging me to do medicine, but I knew in the back of my heart, back of my mind, really, that it might hold me back. It might hold me back, and I was worried about that. So when Trinity phoned to see if I was taking the place, because our A-level results come out a week before leaving cert, she said, I was just phoning to confirm that you are definitely taking the place. And I said, no, actually, can you change me into pharmacy? Just in that split second. If I hadn't been in the house to take the phone call, it would be a different story today. But yeah, I suppose that it was always playing on my mind. So I ended up doing pharmacy, and it actually is much better fit for me when you think about it, because the real, I suppose, inspiration my whole life has been meeting my mum. When we were growing up, she was probably, I suppose she was real unusual, but in that she worked in the 1960s and 70s, and whenever we were growing up, she was leading a manufacturing factory in our local village called Courtaulds Lingerie. It was an English company, whatever, but they made knickers and bras for Marks and Spencer's.
Yeah.
So she was always leading a huge team in that factory. And I used to spend, after school, go down to her, sit in her office, sharpen the pencils and twirl around in her chair. Yeah. But I used to watch the dynamic and what she did and how she adapted.
Learning.
Absolutely learning. And, I think from probably 12, I was, putting wires under, wires and bras and stuff. Yeah. And I was just watching the whole dynamic and how she dealt with the team. And just she had an amazing team of girls there who really, really motivated and always won all of the awards. Out of the Courtaulds would run internal awards, for manufacturing, for quality and control and whatnot. And they always came first place and always picked up the trophies. And I used to always be in awe at how they always wanted to win, and how they worked together to make that happen.
Which was probably an unusual mentality in the 60s and 70s.
Very unusual. Very unusual. My mum was the only woman out of, all these, because I think there's 4 plants in Northern Ireland, and so she was the only woman there, and actually even across the UK network she was the only woman. So I suppose she stood out in that, and she always taught us, you can be whatever you want to be. Gender doesn't hold you back. And I have seen what my mum has done behind the scenes for so many of those girls that worked with her, and she still blows me away to this day.
And also, she obviously ran a house.
She ran a house. She ran 4 of us, and my dad, and kept the whole thing going.
But your dad was in business as well, I read.
Yeah, he was a contractor, so he, a small time contractor in terms of building houses and fixing things and all that kind of stuff. So he was always out working. Huge work ethic. He'd be up at the crack of dawn away. So our house was always a busy house, I suppose, growing up. Yeah. And we were just used to both of them working, and I never contemplated not working. And I knew I would always wanted to work with a team of people, because I always wanted that energy and that, when she would, I remember whenever they would win awards, there used to be a little sort of area with the canteen, and she would stand there and she would call out, and the cheers and the energy and just the excitement, really. And I suppose that was all soaking in to me, but I just didn't recognise it at the time, And so I think pharmacy is a really good blend of my love for science, because I'm a real nerd when it comes to science.
Are you still passionate about that, or are you so caught up in running the business that you don't get?
I'm still very passionate about it. So, and Trinity probably instilled that in me in terms of that continuous search for research and development. And, it's very academic, and they're always kind of leading the way in new developments. And even to this day, I would go in and see the team in there and find out what they're working on at the moment. So I sit on their strategic board of the School of Pharmacy, so that brings me in there. So I'd always have a good old nosy around.
So you've left Trinity many years ago, but you actually have a strong connection to the university.
I have a strong connection. Yeah, I would do have a strong connection, because it's really important to me that, I suppose, the pharmacists that are coming out of there today, the students who are going to be the future, really, for healthcare workers, that they have a really good and relevant education now, because the course has changed dramatically in all of those years. At that time, it was a 4-year degree and then a 1 year in practice, which I did with Pierce. That's what introduced me to Pierce. But now it's a 5-year master's programme. And, I suppose just the structure of that and what they're learning is really important to actually the pharmacists that they become. So it's really great to be able to help shape that and make that a relevant education, yeah.
Last up is Laura Dowling. Laura is the founder and CEO of FabÜ Wellness, one of Ireland's fastest growing new nutritional supplement companies. Laura is a pharmacist and a passionate entrepreneur who's dedicated herself to helping people live healthier, more vibrant lives through the power of nutrition. And in this episode, we'll explore Laura's journey from her beginnings in the health industry to the founding of FabÜ Wellness to its launch on Shopify.
So the name Fabulous Pharmacist, I suppose we'll go back to when I first started it, which was in and around when just after I'd gone back to work after my 3rd son had been born. So I suppose I've been in the business at that stage, whatever, maybe 12, 13, 14 years. And I wanted to do something a little bit different because people were coming into me asking me the same questions every single day. So patients, customers, and then also friends and family. I was getting pictures of, babies' arses saying, what's this rash? I one time got a picture of a friend's husband's undercarriage.
You did not.
Yes.
What was the response?
So she'd obviously taken it from under him. So it was like at an angle, and his face was in it too. Like he was looking at. I was like, I can't unsee. Like I can never go for dinner with you guys again. I can't unsee that picture.
What was the lighting like? Was it okay?
The lighting was enough in that I got a big enough view to be able to say, that fella needs to go to the doctor. So I would get all these same questions. So I was like, look, I wanted to be able to put this out online and be able to give people the answers to things that they may be asking, people on a regular basis, so that they have somewhere to go where they can get really unbiased advice and just, general healthcare without answering medical questions that would pertain to that people need to go to a doctor or a pharmacist physically for, but just like general healthcare advice. So that's how it started. And I wanted to, obviously, the name to stand out. So there's no point in just calling myself, the boring old pharmacist. And I do believe that everyone has a fabulousness in them. So that's where it came from.
Thanks for listening. All of our episodes are available on Spotify, iTunes, and Google Podcasts. A special note of appreciation goes to our sponsors, Rewind.io, the leading backup solution for Shopify store owners. Get your first month of Rewind for free by simply responding to any welcome email once you sign up for your free trial on Rewind.io. If you're a Shopify user with an exciting story to tell, reach out to the team on podcast@milkbottlelabs.com. Until the next time, take care.